Well, hello and welcome, dear Kneecap community, to another episode of Mastering Minecraft. What an episode we had last week. While watching it back, I noticed a few editing errors and I just want to apologize for that. I kind of had a bit of a stressful situation, so small mistakes slipped through. That said, it was still an amazing episode. We finished the flame on top of the Torch of Death and it absolutely looks stunning. And I'm also really proud of the dye farm we created. It worked perfectly. As I mentioned last week, our next goal is going to be to create a pathway between our village and the dye farm. So let's dive in and take a look at what we're going to do today. Alright, I've been thinking about how we should structure our checklist for project pathway. And here's what I came up with. First, analyze the area. Before we start building, we need to get a sense of what makes the most sense given the environment and landscape. This is where we imagine what we could do and what would best fit the space. Then clean up. Once we know what we want to do, it's time to clean up. This includes terraforming certain areas and tidying up the messy auto-generated pathways. Set placeholders. After the cleanup, we'll set placeholders in the areas where we plan to build, giving us a clear layout for the project. Finally, we can start the progress. Once we decided what and where we were building, we can start making real progress toward our goal. I think this approach makes a lot of sense and it will give us a clear direction for what we want to accomplish with Project Pathway. I would have said, let's not waste any more time. We have a visitor again. Let's not waste any more time and start by analyzing the area. Alright, let's dive into the first point on our checklist. Analyzing the area. Some of you might be wondering, what exactly do you mean by that? So let me show you what I exactly mean by that. Before I start any project, I like to mentally set a perimeter and imagine what could fit within the space. For example, the perimeter I'm considering for Project Pathway starts from the hut down here, like from where this grass block is actually. And it goes to the end of the dye farm. And then expands to the left into that small mountain area and comes back. It's like a cube if you want to. By doing this, we can control how big the project will be. One thing I struggle with is setting realistic goals. So I often run into the problem of wanting to build something amazingly huge or overly ambitious. But that mindset can easily lead to burnout or exhaustion. So this method I'm proposing helps break things down into smaller, more manageable parts. And honestly, working in smaller steps gives you the flexibility to adapt if something doesn't go as planned or if things turn out differently than expected. So now let me show you how I would apply this method to the parameter I've set. Alright, so this project is called Project Pathway. The main goal is to connect the village to the dye farm area. So let's take a look at the part of the perimeter that leads from the village towards the dye farm. So, if someone were to come from the village, they'd have to cross a gap and make their way down the mountain where there's a flat area until they reach the tree where we are standing on top of. When I first saw this, I thought, what can I do about this gap here? So the obvious answer is a bridge. But a bridge isn't really necessary here because we could just create a pathway around the gap and the problem would be solved. However, if we take a closer look, there is a small lake to the right of the gap. You see it? I don't know if you even can call this a lake. It's a pond, really. And there's no water flowing into it. So my next thought was, what if we connect the lake or the pond with the river? I don't know if river is the right choice of words, but I think you get the idea. So if we look back at the spot where we considered building the bridge, which would be here, it kind of looks like the beginning of a creek, doesn't it? Like this part here. Why not use that natural space to create a flowing river and add a bridge to cross it? So we would like start placing some water here, and as water is flowing downwards and we have this kind of dip in the area, we can like start the water here, make it go through this space. I think we don't have to remove everything here. I think the water just can go through it and ends up leaking inside this little pond. So this is an example on how I approached this whole thing. So what I did, I used FreeCam to move around to see what do I have to work with at the beginning and where do I need to improvise. So the next idea I came up with was, I have this lonely tree which is kind of a cool detail if you think about it. There's trees over here. There are a lot of trees over here. Because this kind of tree, for example, is just lonely, if we're honest. And this is like something predestined to give a story to. So this tree has already a character by just standing here alone. So my thought was why not connect the gap here, or bridge the gap with the bridge, then make a pathway down here, and then we can make kind of a plaza or something go around the tree, and yeah, make it like a, how can I say that, a spot on where you can come and just relax if you want so. And you know, what helps me a lot is getting references. For example, the lonely tree. I don't know, maybe some of you noticed, but that's kind of a reference I took from the movie Lord of the Rings. So, you know, the tree that was burnt down when they went to Gondor. So yeah, it doesn't look like it, but it's a lonely tree. And that's the picture it came to my mind. Or the Lonely Mountain in the Hobbit series. So if you see something, try to think of where have I seen something like that. And then try to implement it here. I don't want to say copy the things, but take them as reference and try to make them your own. For example, the area here around this tiny lake, if you look from it at this angle, you see there's kind of a circle around it, and I don't know, but it somehow reminded me of the Colosseum in Rome. So building that thing out into, I don't know, maybe we just make stairs or kind of an, what is the correct word for that? Promenade, why not? In the shape of a circle form. And then this is the mountain area I thought about where we're ending the perimeter. So we won't focus on what is going to be up here. So basically here we could make a nice little house where villagers are living. We could just continue the pathway into this direction. I don't know. But as we look back to the village area, there's also a large free spot here. So it's predestined to have, I don't know, some kind of farmer living here, doing his job, or some kind of house. We can decide later on what this house should be, but it just makes sense if I look into that free area. So something needs to go there. And this is basically how I think behind the scenes before I start building everything. So just to give you an idea how I approach these things. And I think it's really helpful because now we have determined which area to focus on, and then we have a detailed look onto this area. We discovered, hey, this could be a creek, a river flowing into it, into this tiny lake, and then a bridge would make sense. Then we have this lonely tree standing around here. We have the diaphragm that's just standing there, but it can be decorated as well. We have a lot of space here at the mountainside. We have this circle-shaped area here around the tiny lake. We have a huge flat area here where the village is. So this is basically it. I wouldn't make this part any more complicated. It should be easy. It should not overflow your brain with ideas. Man, my English is... I'm sorry for that, guys. It should not overflow your brain with ideas. Take it step by step. Make parts, even in the perimeter. Make parts on. I have a huge area here. I have an area here. I have here, and I have here an area. So I have this creek. Let's just go by that. So after finishing this part, we now have the second point of our checklist, which is setting on placeholders. Okay, so I realized that the second step is actually cleaning up and not setting place markers. And let's be honest, we all tend to procrastinate when it comes to cleaning up. But it's got to be done. So my advice: gather all the energy you can, throw a spirit bomb, and boom, everything's cleaned up. Okay, jokes aside, I've finished the cleaning up, and I don't want to spend any more time on it because the real fun begins after the cleanup. So let me just show you real quick. What I've done is I've tidied up the places here, so we now have a nice pathway that leads to the bridge. The rest, we can focus on that some other time. So let's check off this part of the checklist quickly. Alright, so let's talk about the place markers. What are we doing with them is essentially visualizing where the ideas we came up with during the analysis could be placed and how they might flow once we build them. The key thing here is not to start building yet. We're just briefly setting blocks to mark where something could go. For example, this is where the bridge could stand, and this is where the water might flow. You can also see, when we zoom out a little bit, where the Colosseum or the other buildings could stand. You see, there are really just place markers. They should just help you see if the placements you thought of making make sense. Do they have an synergy with the environment you're trying to place them with? So as you can see, it all makes sense. It isn't like over proportionate. Everything is the right size, and what exactly we are going to build there, this is still open. So after finishing the placement markers, you can start slowly but surely building the things. And in today's episode, we are going to build the bridge And I'm sorry, a plane just flew over my building. I hope you didn't hear it in the background. It threw me off. Okay, so what we're going to start building today is the bridge and the flow of the river into that little pond. So enough talking, let's start with some building. Get ready to take and eat some kneecaps. Well, okay, so I've finished building the bridge and I think it looks gorgeous. What I found out during the process of making the bridge, you cannot create reinforced deep slate, so I had to improvise. So I changed those blocks in the middle of the pillars. I don't know how they called, chiseled tough bricks. Yes, so originally they were reinforced deep slate, but that's okay. And now we're going to decorate everything here. So what we're going to do is we're going to place some flowers, corals, and more. And then we're finished, I think, for today's episode. Let me know what you think about it, and I'll see you guys after one more kneecaps eating session. Alright, we finished everything around the bridge. I made it one block wider on each side, so just a little adjustment on the bridge itself. I thought it was too narrow, and I'm really proud of the detailing. It looks awesome. Honestly, I think this is one of my best builds I've ever made, so I'm really proud of that. Tell me, guys, what do you guys think? Is there anything you would have done differently? I think the best part here is the moss blocks I've placed here. They just give it another kind of green. It really merges with the moss covered blocks. And another detail I love are the corals. That's something I took from the 12th Anonym. So with that said, let's wrap up the episode and take a look at what we've accomplished today. Alright, let's recap what we've done today. First, we analyzed the area for project pathway and laid out the groundwork for how we want to connect the village to the dye farm. We cleaned up the landscape, set place markers to visualize where everything will go, and then jumped into the main project built, the bridge. We added some great detailing and even widened the bridge for a more balanced look. Overall, I'm really proud of how it turned out, and I think we've made solid progress on Project Pathway. So, it was more of a methodical video today. We talked a lot about how we can prevent from oversizing a project and burning out quickly on the game. So I think the main thing you should take with you today is section your project, and in those sections make another section for each part of the project. This makes the whole thing more digestible and it's preventing you from burning out. So, thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, leave your feedback in the comments. Also, don't forget to follow me on my social media accounts. It's been your Kneecap, and see you guys next time. Peace out.